And one of the first things we need to look at is the oversight that's necessary when you're working and playing with the puppy, because it's important to understand that this puppy is not fully grown yet. And I don't have a puppy today that I can bring on board with me. So I brought, this is Bo's favorite little puppy. So he's had this thing for a very long time. He takes extremely good care of it, doesn't chew it
Anyway,
up. I
actually,
had to borrow his favorite puppy. And I'm getting looked at like, what are you doing with my favorite little puppy? So I'm going to use this as an example to show
so
things.
I
This little
actually,
puppy is going to be my example today. Um, there are some good and bad things that you need to understand about playing with a puppy. The first thing you need to understand is that the puppy, um, in the legs back here and up here, all over that, actually pretty much all over the body, there are growth plates, what are called growth plates. And growth plates, when the puppy's born, most everything is cartilage, and then that bone is very, very soft and very, very fragile. But as the long plates grow, and I'll just use the thigh here, as the long plates grow, at the ends are the growth plates, and these will grow, um, and they will calcify when the dog is at maturity, generally anywhere from um, 18 months, a year to 18 months, somewhere in there. Now, if it's a giant breed, it actually is much longer than that. But these bones in here are very fragile, and so they can be very susceptible to um, twist fractures. And so we need to be careful what we do with our puppy during this time when there are growth plates. So during the first year to year and a half, possibly even 2 years, you need to be very careful what you do with your puppy. There's more cartilage in here than there is bone. And as I said, they're very susceptible to to damage, and we want to make sure that we take care of the puppy in that process. Now, puppies are much more resilient than older dogs. Um, that doesn't mean that they can't get hurt. In fact, if they're damaged, if you damage these growth plates and the long bones inside a puppy, um, in fact, any animal, basically a cat or a dog or whatever, um, you can actually cause damage that will last for the life of the puppy. Sometimes the growth plate is damaged, and what it can do is cause uh, the difference in the legs of the two legs. You're just standing here looking at me. I wish I could show you this. Bo, I'll give it back to you. I promise, buddy. Um, so the damage that could be done here as a puppy can be pretty severe and can cause a lot of damage when the dog is older. So some things that we really want to make sure that you don't do in order to hurt your puppy. So we're going to talk more about that here in just 1 second. They have a lot of soft tissue, muscles, um, cartilage, and growing soft bones, again, that are susceptible to damage. Cartilage is flexible, and I think that's one of the reasons why they were created that way, because you see puppies running and they just trip and fall all over themselves and everything else. But those long bones, as they grow and the growth plates grow, at eventually some point in time, those growth plates will start calcifying and the bones will become solid. Now, as I said, that you have to be really careful with the puppy, because twist fractures are very common in puppies. And the way twist fractures happen is that if you're running the dog and you make it turn quickly, it can actually cause stress on those legs and fracture the bone. Now, that's for one of the reasons why we say, we tell our recipients and our people that are in our training program, is that you never play laser chase with a puppy, because the turns are so severe that they could potentially hurt the puppy at that point in time, and we don't want that to happen. Now, so you want to be careful with things like that. Now puppies will get what are called zoomies, where they'll just shoot one direction, come back this direction, and shoot this away again. I mean, at full speed. and they might be in the house and they might just run circles around a table or whatever. Basically, zoomies are just expending energy and they just need to get it out of their system. So what we really recommend is that when your puppy is having the zoomies, kind of just give it a little bit of room and don't force it to make really wide sweeping turns, because again, that's where those stress fractures or twist back fractures can come into play. So just when they're doing that, just let them go. Okay. Now, one of the safest things that you can let your puppy do is called free play. And you just want to let it play on its own because it knows its own limits and it will do and play up until those limits. Now, we will warn you, and I've always warned everybody this, is that your puppy will go beyond its limits to please you. So they want to please you, and they will go further than their limits because of you. So you need to know their limits and you need to take care of them in that situation. Now, if you're going on walks for a brand new puppy, you need to keep them very short. A little puppy, 8 weeks old, not going to be able to go for a mile walk or 2 miles every day. That's, it's not good for the puppy. It's really not. So you need to make sure that you're doing age appropriate things and walks with the puppy. So you want to keep them very short. Now, I will tell you that the puppy will tell you when they're out walking, when they have reached their limit, they will sit down and they will not move. And the reason for that is they've reached their limits. So you need to either, number one, pick them up and hold them all the way home, or just stop, let it relax, let it sit there, let it settle down a little bit, let it build up some strength, but never push them, because again, they will go beyond their own limits for you. And so we want to make sure that we give them that ability to, stay within their limits. Now, if you are a runner or a jogger, no, this puppy should not be going on jogging with you until your veterinarian gives you clearance for it to do so. Running and jogging, again, pushes them to limits that they're not ready to do. And so you need to make sure that you are protecting them in that situation. So until your veterinarian tells you that it's okay, this should not be your running partner. Okay. These are not, I heard somebody say one time that these are not mini me's of adult dogs. These are puppies. These are growing puppies. They have very, what's the word I want to use? Their bones are very fragile. And inside of there, if there's growth plates and there's damage to the growth plates, some of that could require surgery, and that surgery can be up over $2,000 easily. So you want to make sure that we don't do that. So if you're a jogger and you want to take your dog on a jog, be patient. Let your puppy grow, and your veterinarian will tell you when it's okay for you to run that puppy. So just please, for the sake of your puppy, don't take them running as a puppy. It's not a good thing. Yeah, it might feel good to you, but it's not good on the puppy. Okay? Now, the next thing is we want to avoid jumping. Okay. So we want to avoid jumping, making them jump off the ground to catch things and everything else like that. Because when they come back down, that puts stress on those legs. And again, those can cause fractures. So you don't want them jumping up off the ground. Be careful with that. Okay, so no jumping. And this also includes stairs. Okay, so I see people that are having their dogs run up and down the stairs, and they're 3, 4 months old or something like that. That's not safe for the puppy. So you want to teach them to go up down the stairs slowly and not jumping off the stairs. You can see them jumping off several stairs to get to the ground floor. Don't do that. Okay. Again, we don't want to cause damage to these legs. Okay. Now, if you're hiking and you go up into the mountains or in the hills or whatever, and you want to take a hike and you want to take your puppy with you, so what you want to do is make sure that you don't take those steep inclines and force the puppy to go up those. or force them to come down. Okay. So just play it safe. And if you want to take your puppy with you on a walk up in the hike in the mountains and everything else, well, you know, they make backpacks for these, and you can carry your puppy in the backpack. Now, if you get to a gentle rolling hill where it's safe for the puppy to walk, go ahead and let it walk there. Okay. So you want to make sure that you give them the ability, again, to be age appropriate with what you're doing with your puppy. So play it safe with them. Okay. Use some intelligence when you're dealing with these things. You know, because puppies, like I said, they're not like the Duracell bunny rabbit. You know, they just don't keep ticking. You can cause them injury and damage. Okay, so play it safe with them. All play must be age appropriate. Okay, so all play must be age appropriate. So when I talk about that, what am I talking about? Okay, so what I'm talking about here, my notes here, no jumping off the ground. Okay, we don't want them jumping off the ground, up off the ground. We don't want them leaving the ground, because again, just down the landing back down can cause damage to those bones. Okay. Now, if you're going to play fetch, don't throw the ball up into the air so the puppy has to jump for it. You throw it out, so you throw it straight out and keep it level with the ground. And again, so that the puppy doesn't have to jump up and try and catch it. Okay. So you want to make sure that when you're playing fetch, and when you start playing fetch with the puppy, you just want to do short distances. You don't want to take your puppy over to the ballpark with this ball thing that you can fling it, 1,000 yards or whatever. That's not, age appropriate for puppies. So you want to make sure that you keep it age appropriate so you don't hurt them in any way. Okay. One other thing about fetch too. So whatever you're using for fetch, if you're using a tennis ball or whatever, always make sure that it's not small enough for a puppy to swallow, because puppies will put anything into their mouth that they can. They are known to swallow everything in the world. They love socks, and that's why we have our puppy preschool, and we tell people in our puppy preschool, if you leave it on the floor and it gets destroyed, it's your fault. The puppy doesn't know any better. So if you leave it there, it gets destroyed, it's your fault. Now, other thing about socks is puppies will swallow everything they can. So you want to make sure that whatever they're playing with is big enough for them to play with, but not too small so that they can swallow it. We've had puppies that have swallowed socks. We've had them swallow all kinds of things. And if a puppy swallows something, and I think I mentioned this one before, it will either come out one of two ways. They will either throw it up or they will pass it through their system. Now, if they cannot pass it through the system, then you've got a big problem on your hands, because you're looking at possible surgery. Now, if the puppy's sitting there gagging and trying to get something out, and you can be pretty sure about that point in time, that if they're gagging, there's something there that they're trying to get out. And if they can't get it out that way, hopefully it will pass through the other end and you can avoid surgery. But if that case where the puppy is gagging and it's not bringing it up, I would recommend taking your puppy to the veterinarian at that point in time. So again, please make sure that something is not small enough that they can swallow it, but big enough that they can't really put it through their mouth and get it in their system. Okay. Right. So you want to make sure that the next thing is as I said, your puppies are going to get zoomies. When they get the zoomies, it's just fun to watch. I mean, Bo's 7.5 years old, and he still gets the zoomies. He'll go outside and just run one end of the yard to the other end of the yard, just as fast as he can. And I think it's a combination of excitement as well as needing to get rid of energy. So if you get a puppy that wants to have the zoomies, just kind of stay out of the way, because they will know how to do their turning and everything else without hurting themselves. But if we step in and try to intervene, then it could cause some potential damage as well. So the zoomies, just give them room. And again, what they're doing is they're trying to deplete energy, from being bored or whatever. So the next thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about tug of war. Okay, tug of war is a great way for a puppy to expend energy, but it has to be age specific. Okay, so remember that we're dealing with a puppy. We're dealing with a lot of soft tissue. We're dealing with growth plates. We're dealing with fragile bones and everything else like that. And in addition to tug of war, you're talking about all the baby teeth that are inside the mouth. Now, you might say, well, oh, those baby teeth are going to fall out. Yes, they are going to fall out. But you can cause damage to the permanent canines with the baby teeth as well. So you need to be very careful about that as well. So there are rules for playing tug of war, and we're going to go over those, but I want you to understand that you just can't play like you would with an older dog. You have to be very considerate of this. Now, always my feeling is you always let the puppy win the tug of war. Okay. There are some people that will tell you, no, you should never let the puppy win tug of war because, that just tells it that it's the alpha, and I just don't believe that. Okay, I don't agree with it. Let the puppy win. Bo and I have a tug of war all the time, and my record on tug of war is 0 to 7,000. Okay, I always let Bo win, regardless whether he's a puppy or regardless whether he's 7.5 years old. Yeah, I'm going to let him win. So what you do is you tug of war with him, and then you just stop and say, you let go and say, you win, and the puppy will come back and want to play again. Now, when you're playing tug of war, okay, remember that we're dealing with teeth. So when the puppy's tugging, okay, we're not going to tug against it, okay? We're going to let the puppy tug at its pace and its strength, okay? We're not going to give it this where they have to pull really hard. We're just going to let it tug to a little bit to where it meets resistance and let it play tug of war, okay? Doing this again can pull on those baby teeth and can cause issues. So just let the puppy tug at its pace or its strength, okay? The other thing is there's a number one rule with tug of war. Tug of war is always side to side. It's never up and down. So we don't play tug of war up and down. It's always side to side, okay? And the reason for that is, because remember, we're talking about bone structures. And if you run this back up and down like that, then you're going to cause some neck damage or some spinal damage. And so we don't want that. So we always want to go side to side when they're playing. And that's what you watch dogs when they've got something in their mouth. They always go side to side with that. They never go like this. Okay. So always play side to side. Okay. So you want to make sure that it's side to side. Now, the next thing is that you need to teach your children how to play tug of war with this puppy. Okay. Children should not play tug of war with your puppy until they know the rules. It's extremely important because you can do everything the right way, but if you don't teach your children to do it the right way, then you can have your children causing damage to your puppy as well. So children should not be allowed to play tug of war with the puppy until they understand the rules. Okay, it's very important again because they could cause damage to the teeth, they could cause damage to the neck and the soft tissue. So you need to have them understand the rules. Okay, now when puppies or when dogs play, believe it or not, when they're playing and they're at full blown out play mode, they're very close to being in an aggressive manner. In fact, they're very close to fighting at that point in time. And so what you need to watch a dog is that when it's playing, if it starts raising its hackles back here or it starts growling in a deeper type of growl, and it's basically getting a little bit more aggressive, you'll tell it, and the puppy's body language will relay it as well. But if it's starting to get aggressive, you immediately stop the game. You just drop the toy and you just walk away. If you continue on, then you could get that puppy angry. And again, when dogs, as I said, when dogs are playing, they're very close to the getting angry point. So the thing that you need to watch out for is watch the hackles, watch the body language, and it will tell you that. Again, if you ever see a dog fight and you ever see somebody try to break up a dog fight and their own dog is in that fight, they can be bitten by their own dog because the dog loses that sense during that fighting of who's touching me. And, oh, that's my master. At that point in time, they don't recognize that. They are in full blown let's fight mode. Okay. So you could get bitten by your own dog. And remember, puppy teeth are extremely, extremely sharp. So when you want to work with a puppy and playing tug of war, if it starts becoming aggressive, you just end the game and walk away. Now you could let it come back to you, or what I would do is just have it come back over to me and start loving on it and help bring it down. So talk to it calmly, pet it softly. It's okay. It's all right. Okay. It's okay. So you want to make sure that, if it gets aggressive, you want to stop that and you don't want to chide that on. Okay. Now also remember, you can stop this game anytime you want. So puppies sometimes will love to play tug of war forever. But you can just stop the game. Now, one of the ways that you can really stop tug of war, when the puppy's tugging, okay, just let it take it, okay? Don't pull against it, because if you pull against it, it's going to tug against you too. So you loosen up and just stop your pressure and the resistance that you're giving, and just let it go. And by doing that, then the puppy will say, okay, this is probably over now. The other thing you can do is just drop it and just walk away. But in either case, whether it's aggressive or if you want to stop the game, let it win, say, you win, and then that's it. You don't have to play it again. Okay, so it's up to you basically what you want to do in a situation. Okay, so make sure that you understand that this is something that you can walk away. But follow these rules for tug of war. It's extremely important because, again, you could cause damage to the bone structure. You could cause damage to those teeth. Actually, you could even do damage to the growth plates as well. So just please be really careful about that situation, if you would. Anyway, I'm going to give Bo back his puppy because he's still sitting down there looking at me like, I want my puppy back. So anyway, thank you for being with us on here. So I'll give Bo back his puppy. There you go, buddy. Now, I had somebody send me an email, and I'm not going to read all of this, but I want to talk about this email for just 1 second. It says, I have an 11-month-old, half husky, half German Shepherd. She chews everything: mattresses, pillows, clothes, or anything in her path. My husband is ready to rehome her. That worries me. She's scared of most people, and we don't know why. I need help training so we don't have to give her up. That is so loaded with so much information, it's unbelievable. Now, she goes on to add one other comment here. She says, also, her attitude is justified as we just haven't got the time or energy to work with her. I need to train her, but I have no idea what to do, nor do I have hundreds sitting around to pay for training. So, I mean, that last statement and actually the first statement are so telling, it's unbelievable. First off, a dog that has no avenue for expression of mental energy or physical energy will become destructive. So if they have no way to get rid of that energy, that dog has no avenue to get rid of that energy. Puppies need, dogs need, in this case, 11-month-old, even 11-month-old, needs to have an avenue to expend energy, both physical and mental energy. Um, and so no wonder she's destructive the way she is. Um, you know, dogs need two things. They need the physical energy they need to get rid of, and that comes from play and walking. So they need to get rid of that physical energy, but dogs need to get rid of their mental energy as well. And with mental energy, one of the best things that you can do is what's called a sniff walk. And with the sniff walk, you just let the dog roam around and sniff everything in the world. 40% of their brain is geared towards scent. So they need to exercise that. And if they can't exercise that, that's where this destructive energy comes from. So just by taking a sniff walk allows them to go around and sniff everything in the world, and that activates that olfactory system. And so they're taking everything in. You've probably heard me say this before, but the fire hydrant is, we call it a P-mail station, because every dog that comes up and marks on it is leaving their information on that fire hydrant. So your dog walks up there and they can tell, they can actually separate the different scent from different dogs. So they can separate all that information and process that through their brain. But by doing that, gives them that mental energy to exercise it and get rid of that stuff. Okay. So just a sniff walk, just take them out, let them walk around. Bo and I go out on a sniff walk. A lot of times it take me 30 minutes just to go down a half a block or so, because I just let him sniff on everything in the world. Now, as a puppy, with a puppy, you need to be concerned about it having its shots before you start really expanding out areas. One of the things we always warn people of is that if you're going to take your puppy out, take it to places where there are not a lot of dogs that frequent that area until you've got all the final shots. Dog parks, in our mind and my programs, they are not allowed. Don't ever take your dog to a dog park. In a dog park, there are untrained dogs, there's unvaccinated dogs, there's aggressive dogs. There are dogs that, as because they're untrained for puppy will want to try and emulate an older dog. And there are people there that don't care about your dog. Dog parks can be the death knell of a service dog, because all it takes is one aggressive dog to attack a puppy, and that will cause the later ramifications when they're older. So dog parks are absolutely a no-no. But until your puppy has all of its shots, make sure you're careful as to where you take it. Okay. Um, and in this email, one of the things that I really want to point out is that um, she said that the puppy's afraid of everybody. Well, that comes from socialization. That's why socialization early for a puppy is extremely important. The prime socialization period for a puppy is 8 to 12 weeks. And in those time frames, you need to have the puppy meeting different people and and being socialized a little bit more in public situations. So it's important that you make sure that you socialize your dog. Now, at this age, 11 months, it can still be socialized, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult, and particularly around 11 months, because it may be going through a fear phase at that point in time. Usually they go through a fear phase around 12 months old. So potentially that could be happening here as well. Um, and then the last thing is that her last statement is that, the dog's attitude is justifiable because they haven't done anything to work with her. Um, the problem and this is one of the reasons why we are starting a new program. It's called Our Puppy Preschool, and that is coming online the 1st of December. So it's called Our Puppy Preschool, and by Frank Gregg's Relationship on Training. So with Our Puppy Preschool, what it is, it's a preparatory course to help people plan for their puppy coming home, or if they have a new puppy, or if they're just thinking about a puppy. It gives you all the instructions that you need to follow if you are planning on having a puppy. And you do this before the puppy comes home, because that way you're psychologically and physically, your house is prepared for it and the whole bit. So again, be watching for that. And again, it's called Our Puppy Preschool. by Frank Griggs Relationship Bond Training. Now, she says, I have no idea what to do and I can't afford $100. Well, I guarantee you that there are any number of videos on Facebook that a person could use. One of the great ones to use is Victoria Stilwell. She is a very good trainer. Hopefully Frank Griggs Relationship Bond Training will be on there as well. Now, one statement, our puppy preschool is not a basic canine training course. It's not designed for that. It's designed for preparation for a puppy to come home, for both the puppy and the individual. There are some training, basic behavior trainings in it, but this is not a basic canine training course. We will have that in the future. But there is information if you just go looking for it. And the problem I have, and we're coming up to Christmas time, and this always concerns me at Christmas time because everybody gets a puppy at Christmas time. And usually, somewhere between after 5 months old or 6 months old, when they're starting into adolescence and they haven't done any training with the dog, then they want to rehome it or they want to send it to the shelter at that point in time. If you are going to get a puppy and you know somebody's going to get a puppy, they need to remember that this is a commitment that they have to keep. This is not a toy like what I was showing you with Bo. It is a breathing being, living being, and it needs to be treated as such. And I hate it when I see people have to turn dogs over to shelters because of that. And it's not the dog's fault in most cases, it's the person's fault. So there, to her benefit, she did admit that they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. But there's all kinds of information on YouTube that you can find. So anyway, so the next couple sessions that we're going to do about talking about puppies with Frank, that's me, are actually going to deal with nutrition.